Millionaire kicked his pregnant wife out of the house shocked when she marries a US senator. Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel where we bring you stories that blend heartbreak, resilience, and sweet, unimaginable twists of fate. Today's tale unveils the shocking downfall of a once powerful millionaire who cast out his pregnant wife without a moment's hesitation. Little did he know, life had something far grander in store for her, an alliance with a respected US senator that would stun the entire town. Prepare yourself for betrayals, last-minute revelations, and a karmic retribution so unexpected, it'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Stay tuned as we dive into this drama of love and vengeance. Before we dive in, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. If you're excited about this story, let us know. If you enjoyed the video, press 1. If not, press O. Your feedback really inspires me to gather more uplifting and meaningful stories. Cassandra Hale stood at the grand doorway of the opulent mansion on Park Avenue, tears brimming in her eyes. She cradled her swollen belly, feeling every kick of the child growing inside her. Donovan Hale, her husband, was a self-made millionaire who prided himself on purchasing the finest things life could offer, from designer suits to custom-built automobiles. He'd made his fortune in high-stakes property investments, appearing in Forbes magazine as the visionary of Manhattan. Yet, behind that shining persona lurked the darkness of a relentless ambition that had long eclipsed any semblance of kindness. Tonight, Donovan's voice echoed in the marble foyer. "You're nothing but a burden to me," he spat, his perfectly styled hair emphasizing the hardness in his eyes. "I took you off the streets and gave you the life every woman dreams of, but you've never shown me an ounce of gratitude." Each word sliced through Cassandra's heart, but what made it more piercing was the knowledge that, long ago, he'd actually been a caring husband. Their romance had started innocently. She, a talented interior designer who'd sketched out an unconventional color palette for one of his development projects, and he'd been smitten with her creativity. But everything changed when her pregnancy began to interfere with Donovan's lofty goals. He considered her a distraction, even suspecting that her demands for emotional support jeopardized his next lucrative deal. In a single, cold moment, Donovan flung the front door open. "Get out," he hissed. "Don't you dare come back." Staggering into the chilly night, Cassandra felt the betrayal like shards of glass beneath her feet. She had no money of her own. Donovan had always made sure of that. He believed that control over finances equated to power in the relationship, and he refused to allow her even the smallest independence. Her hands trembled as she rummaged through her purse, finding only a few loose bills and a nearly empty MetroCard. Neighbors in the exclusive building watched from behind pristine windows, some with pity in their eyes, others simply curious about the nighttime drama. The hush of Manhattan at that late hour felt eerily magnified by the heavy ache in her chest. With nowhere else to go, Cassandra swallowed her pride and headed to the nearest subway station. She couldn't afford a hotel, and she had no family left. She'd lost her parents to an accident years ago, and Donovan's parents never approved of her. She remembered them often branding her as the nobody who latched onto our successful son. Yet a flicker of defiance glimmered in Cassandra's mind. She recalled the days before Donovan swept her off her feet, when she had learned to rely solely on herself. She'd once fought for her own projects in a competitive interior design firm. She'd faced rejection after rejection, determined to prove her worth in a field dominated by nepotism and connections. And even though now her body carried the weight of impending motherhood, that same inner strength whispered that she must keep going no matter how bleak it seemed. The train rumbled beneath the city, vibrating the seat under Cassandra as she stared at her own reflection in the dark window. Torn between heartbreak and furious resolve, she remembered how Donovan had once praised her for her fierce independence. "That's what attracted me to you in the first place," he'd once said, offering her a champagne flute at a lavish rooftop party. It was ironic how the same trait he'd adored had become the thorn in his side. She stepped off at a less glamorous station far from the upscale neighborhoods. The stark contrast from Park Avenue was staggering. Old graffiti lined the walls and faint neon signs flickered. Exhaustion weighed on her, but she trudged forward until she found a small, budget motel that seemed, at best, a temporary shelter. The night clerk looked her up and down, one eyebrow raised at her pregnant belly, but handed over a key. Once she deposited her meager cash on the counter. Her room was cramped and smelled faintly of mold, but Cassandra closed the door and curled up on the squeaking bed, hugging her abdomen. Through silent tears, she whispered to her unborn child, "I won't let anyone hurt you. I won't let him destroy us." Though Donovan's rejection stung deeper than any wound she'd ever endured, the maternal instincts awakening within her reminded her that she had a new life to protect. As anxiety weighed down, an unexpected seed of determination began to bloom, urging her not to give up. Morning sunlight slipped through threadbare curtains. Cassandra woke with a jolt, her entire body stiff from a sleepless night. She grabbed her phone, only to find multiple missed calls from Donovan's personal lawyer. Without thinking, she answered the next incoming call. A clipped voice demanded, "Miss S. Hale, you've been informed that you are no longer welcome on any property owned by Mr. Hale, correct? He intends to finalize the divorce immediately." The words stung, but the lawyer's next statements felt like 100 knives. "He also requests you relinquish any claim to spousal support. If you do not comply, we'll pursue legal action." The threat made her heart pound. Cassandra closed her eyes, recalling the documents she had once blindly signed. Donovan had insisted they be standard prenuptial agreements. At the time, she'd trusted him completely. Now, she suspected those documents gave him an ironclad path to leave her penniless. Still, she refused to cower. "I will not sign anything," she responded quietly. "You can take me to court, but I will fight for my child's future." She ended the call and tossed the phone onto the bed, tears of anger now fueling her. Thoughts of that life inside her gave her the courage to stand up and fight, no matter how big Donovan's legal team might be. She knew she had to find work again, to establish a life that no one could snatch away. Cassandra swiftly gathered her few belongings and exited the motel room, her breath hitching with nerves, but also with resolve. When Cassandra stepped out onto the sidewalk, she was momentarily disoriented by the hustle of the city. Rush hour was in full swing, suits and sneakers barreling toward destinations unknown. Gone were the days of black town cars waiting to whisk her away from the slightest inconvenience. Now, she was fully immersed in the fray, forced to navigate the chaos with limited funds and a child on the way. She remembered a small design firm, Flores & Associates, where she had once interviewed fresh out of college. They had admired her portfolio back then, but had been hesitant to hire someone with minimal experience. However, Cassandra had since built a decent resume before Donovan convinced her to become a homemaker. She decided to take a chance. If they were still around, maybe they would consider her for a position, especially if she could showcase her refined talents and references from high-profile clients. She'd done freelance work for in Donovan's social circle. Arriving at a humble brick building, she opened the door to find a bustling, open-concept workspace. A young receptionist greeted her, surprise evident when Cassandra explained her reason for stopping by without an appointment. But something in Cassandra's determined gaze, and her heartfelt honesty moved the receptionist to fetch Miss Julia Flores, the owner of the firm. Miss Flores remembered Cassandra's work. "I recall your color sense was remarkable," she said, scanning Cassandra's battered portfolio. Then, glancing at Cassandra's pregnant belly, she added gently, "But is this the right time for such a stressful job?" Cassandra could only smile and reply, "It's the perfect time. I need to stand on my own." In a turn of unexpected fortune, Miss Flores offered Cassandra a chance, an open junior designer position that required immediate, sharp creativity. Cassandra accepted with a grateful heart. The salary was modest, nowhere near the lavish lifestyle she once shared with Donovan, but it was enough for a new start. She spent her first day buried in color swatches, fabric samples, and digital mock-ups, reclaiming the sense of purpose she had lost. Even as she focused on the job, swirling thoughts of Donovan's betrayal haunted her. She remembered their lavish dates at the Peninsula Hotel in Manhattan, where he would insist on the best champagne, always determined to show off. Back then, he claimed he worked so hard to provide the perfect life for both of them. How quickly he had grown colder, more calculating as his business empire expanded. That evening, Cassandra found a small rental unit on the outskirts of Manhattan, cramped but just within her meager budget. The walls needed a fresh coat of paint, and the windowsills had chipped frames, but at least she had a roof over her head that was truly hers. With each passing day, she juggled her growing belly and the demands of her job, forging alliances with her new co-workers who admired her quiet resilience. Word of Donovan's callous behavior soon reached them. Office gossip travels fast, but Cassandra never stooped to bad-mouthing him. She knew that a battle of reputations was the last thing she needed. Instead, she channeled her emotions into her designs, shaping art out of anguish and forging her path forward. Weeks turned into months, and Cassandra's determination bore fruit. She landed a significant contract for Flores and Associates, the redesign of a lobby for an old, historical building in New York's theater district. Her knack for blending classic elegance with modern flair impressed the client, who spread the word among well-to-do associates. Buoyed by this success, Miss Flores gave her more responsibilities. All the while, Donovan's threats intensified. His lawyer bombarded Cassandra with letters, accusing her of refusing to comply with the prenup and spreading false rumors that harmed Donovan's pristine public image. Cassandra ignored the baseless claims, knowing she spoke no ill of him. She merely lived her life. Still, fear occasionally gnawed at her. Donovan's resources were near limitless, and she had to stay alert. One evening, during an upscale design event that she attended on behalf of Flores and Associates, Cassandra's path crossed with an influential figure, Senator James Caldwell of New York. Rumored to be a champion of social welfare reforms, Senator Caldwell was an imposing presence in the event hall, surrounded by a sea of admirers. Cassandra, feeling out of place, was content to scan the decor for fresh ideas. Yet fate had a twist in mind. A colleague introduced her to the senator, mentioning, "She's the rising star in interior design." Caldwell offered a warm handshake and a charming smile. There was an undeniable sincerity in his demeanor that immediately put Cassandra at ease. She thought nothing of it then, merely exchanging pleasantries before parting ways. Little did she realize how profoundly this chance meeting would alter the course of her life. The next day at the office, Cassandra was startled to receive a phone call from a staff member of Senator Caldwell's team. They were hosting a charity gala to benefit maternal health initiatives, and they needed a designer to transform an old events hall into a space worthy of high-profile donors and journalists. The senator had personally requested Cassandra's input, recalling their brief but memorable introduction the previous night. At first, Cassandra hesitated. She was due in just a couple of months, and the time commitment for a major Gala transformation could be grueling. But Miss Flores encouraged her, viewing it as both an honor and a golden opportunity. Sometimes, she said, your greatest breakthroughs come at moments when you least expect them. Emboldened, Cassandra took on the assignment. Over the following weeks, she met regularly with Senator Caldwell's staff, discussing themes, color palettes, and stage designs for keynote speeches. The more she worked on the project, the more she came to respect Caldwell's genuine dedication to the cause. He wasn't just a politician shaking hands for votes. He clearly cared about maternal health, an issue intimately close to Cassandra's heart. In the thick of their planning sessions, she found herself opening up about her pregnancy, though she carefully avoided mentioning Donovan by name. It was during one of these late-night design reviews that Senator Caldwell offered her a ride home. Unexpectedly, he said, "You seem exhausted. Let me ensure you get home safely." His kindness, so different from Donovan's carefully crafted gestures, began to stir emotions in Cassandra she hadn't felt in a long time. Late-night rides became more frequent as the Gala's deadline loomed. Senator Caldwell often volunteered his car to drop Cassandra off at her modest apartment, and they used the rides to finalize details for the event. Slowly, polite conversation gave way to deeper discussions. She shared tidbits of her past, carefully sidestepping the pain caused by her husband's abandonment. Meanwhile, Caldwell revealed glimpses of his upbringing. His mother had been a nurse in a struggling neighborhood, nurturing a passion in him for public service from a young age. Despite the senator's warmth, Cassandra couldn't ignore her lingering insecurities. Her pregnancy was now quite visible, and she worried about gossip or the intrusion of paparazzi. What if the media discovered she was connected to a major political figure? She also carried the weight of Donovan's ongoing legal intimidation. Yet Caldwell's reassurance soothed her worries. He reminded her, "My office stands for protecting the vulnerable. That includes you. No one can tarnish your integrity if you hold fast to the truth." Meanwhile, Donovan simmered in the background like an approaching storm. He was rumored to be pivoting into politics himself, or at least aiming for greater influence in the city's power circles. He had no idea how closely his orbit would soon collide with the very person he had cast aside. In a twist nobody predicted, the seeds of a partnership, perhaps more, were sprouting between Cassandra and the senator, each day bringing them closer on both professional and personal levels. The charity gala arrived like a whirlwind of excitement. High-profile guests, including business magnates, celebrities, and political figures, gathered in the newly transformed venue. Chandeliers glittered overhead, casting warm light onto elegantly draped tables. The backdrop Cassandra had designed for the stage was a majestic piece of art, weaving together the theme of nurturing mothers and newborns with subtle references to the city's skyline. Attendees buzzed with admiration for the imaginative decor, and Miss Flores proudly introduced Cassandra to everyone, declaring her the mastermind behind the event's ambience. In the crowd, Cassandra spotted Donovan, her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected him to attend an event focused on maternal health. He had never expressed interest in charitable causes. Yet there he was, wearing a tailored suit and a broad, false grin as he networked with top business leaders. She wondered if he was looking for political leverage, building alliances for his real estate projects, or simply there to maintain appearances. Just before Senator Caldwell delivered his keynote speech, he found Cassandra in a corner, anxiety flickering in her eyes. "I didn't know Donovan would be here," she whispered. Caldwell gently placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry about him. This night isn't about anyone's self-serving image. It's about helping mothers and their children like you and your baby." Buoyed by those words, Cassandra took a deep breath and stood her ground. The speech that followed was heartfelt. Senator Caldwell spoke of the importance of compassion, the need for medical support for pregnant women, and the power of unity in shaping a better society. Every word resonated with Cassandra's own journey, and for a moment she forgot Donovan even existed until she felt his icy stare from across the hall. As guests mingled after the speech, Donovan cornered Cassandra near a refreshments table. His voice was low, cold, and utterly possessive. "So this is where you've been hiding," he sneered, eyes flicking condescendingly over her evening gown, tailored to accommodate her baby bump. "I never knew you had such connections." The irony in his tone was palpable. Cassandra squared her shoulders, heart pounding. She refused to cower before him. "I'm here working, if that's what you're implying. My designs helped bring this gala to life. And you? What are you doing here?" Donovan smirked. "I'm networking, securing new investment opportunities. And from what I see, you've been busy getting close to a senator. How shrewd of you, Cassandra." A malevolent glint in his eye hinted at further suspicion. Perhaps he believed she was leveraging the senator for revenge or personal gain. Cassandra took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain calm. "I have nothing to prove to you. If you have business to attend to, then attend to it. Stay out of my life." Their tense exchange was interrupted by Senator Caldwell himself, who approached to ensure everything was all right. Donovan's face stiffened, and he extended a handshake, all for show. The senator greeted him politely, evidently aware of who Donovan was. Cassandra noticed her ex-husband's composure falter. Ever so slightly, he likely didn't anticipate how genuinely respected Caldwell was, or that the senator already knew enough to keep a watchful eye on him. An undercurrent of tension rippled through the elegant hall, revealing a friction that would soon spark an inevitable confrontation. The night ended without a public scene, but Cassandra's mind whirled with anxiety. She worried about Donovan's next move. He thrived on retaliation. True to form, within a week, he filed yet another motion in court, seeking complete termination of her legal rights. He aimed to strip her of any spousal benefits and demanded sole ownership of assets they'd accumulated, as though erasing her from his life on paper would undo her existence. This time, however, Cassandra didn't stand alone. Senator Caldwell personally recommended an excellent family law attorney known for defending vulnerable clients against high-powered bullies. The attorney, Lorraine Kincaid, wasted no time in mounting a strong defense. At the first hearing, Donovan's legal team arrived like hawks, armed with accusations that Cassandra was using her pregnancy to extort Donovan. But Kincaid fired back with evidence of his manipulative control, exposing details of how he cut Cassandra off financially, even leaving her homeless at one point. Donovan's confident smirk wavered beneath the judge's stern gaze. As the legal battle raged on, Cassandra worked tirelessly. She insisted on continuing her design projects despite the stress, determined to prove she could support herself and her unborn child through her own skill. Meanwhile, Senator Caldwell's presence in her life became a balm she never anticipated. Though their relationship was primarily professional, each small kindness, a check in call, a kind note of encouragement, chipped away at her fears. Unexpected as it was, her heart began to open to the possibility that she deserved a second chance at love, even if she'd once been convinced she could never trust a man again. 2 weeks before her due date, Cassandra collapsed from exhaustion in the middle of an intense design session. She was rushed to the hospital, prompting frantic calls among her co-workers and Senator Caldwell. He arrived at the hospital faster than anyone else, brimming with concern. Cassandra, already terrified, felt some measure of relief seeing a familiar face. The doctors declared she was experiencing dangerous levels of stress, threatening a premature labor. In the following days, Caldwell rarely left her side. By then, rumors swirled gossip columns, speculated about the senator's secret companion, and Donovan likely fanned the flames. Yet Caldwell remained steadfast, publicly stating that his friendship with Cassandra stemmed from mutual respect and her contributions to charitable causes. Privately, though, he confessed deeper feelings. One night in the hospital corridor, he gently held her hand, saying, "I don't want you to think I'm doing this for publicity. I care about you, truly. I want to be there for you and your child." Overwhelmed by his sincerity, Cassandra shed quiet tears of gratitude. The day Cassandra finally went into labor was both terrifying and exhilarating. As she clutched Caldwell's hand, she felt the worst pain of her life mingle with the most profound anticipation. The baby, a healthy little girl, arrived screaming and wriggling, a fierce testament to Cassandra's resilience. In that instant, her heart erupted with love. She was a mother now, and no power on earth could take that away. Meanwhile, Donovan's name, his presence, seemed to grow small and insignificant in the face of her child's first breath. In the weeks that followed, Donovan's last-ditch legal maneuvers collapsed when Lorraine Kincaid presented incontrovertible evidence of his malicious intent. The judge ruled in Cassandra's favor, not only granting her fair spousal support, but also penalizing Donovan for emotional distress and neglect. Incensed by the public embarrassment, Donovan's business partners began distancing themselves from him. Clients cancelled contracts after seeing the harsh media headlines about his behavior. His carefully curated empire started to crumble, stock values plummeting for his real estate holdings. In a desperate attempt to salvage his reputation, Donovan tried pivoting to political ambitions, but his name was now irreversibly tarnished. Meanwhile, Cassandra thrived. She was officially promoted to lead designer at Flores and Associates, a testament to her undeniable talent. She balanced motherhood with her blossoming career, each day a testament to her unwavering strength. And in a development that stunned the city's social circles, Senator James Caldwell proposed to Cassandra in front of a small gathering of friends, including Miss Flores and Lorraine Kincaid. "I love you," he declared, taking her hand before their intimate crowd. "I love your spirit, your resilience, and everything you stand for. I want to be part of your life and your daughter's life always." A year later, in a graceful ceremony filled with the closest of friends, Cassandra married the senator in a sunlit garden. The press covered it widely, marking the union of a respected politician and a once-forgotten woman who had been tossed aside by a ruthless millionaire. And though Donovan never showed his face that day, news outlets reported that he was seen wandering outside the city, his fortunes waning. The man who had kicked his pregnant wife out onto the street now stood on the sidelines, watching as she found genuine love and a far greater destiny than he ever could have imagined. Thank you for staying with us through this unforgettable journey of heartbreak, courage, and retribution. We watched as Cassandra transformed from a vulnerable, abandoned wife into a remarkable woman who built a meaningful career, found genuine love, and ultimately vanquished the man who sought to break her spirit. The twists, the legal showdowns, and the breathtaking revelation of marriage to a U.S. senator proved that karma never forgets and that resilience is its own reward. If you enjoyed today's story, please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more gripping tales of hope, justice, and true transformation.